Welcome back to Brands Hatch, where the big boys are back out on track. It's time for our second touring car race of the day, so let's rejoin Tim Harvey and Ben Edwards.
Jason Plato leads them away on the formation lap, so not much need to build up heat in the tyres on this glorious sunny day at Brands Hatch in preparation for this second race as Matt Jackson follows through. Let's take a look at how they line up on the grid then. It is Plato on pole, looking for 2 out of 2 once again. Matt Jackson alongside him, Alex McDowell in the second Silverline Chevrolet, then James Nash, followed by Tom Onslow Cole in the Team A on Ford and Paul O'Neill in the Go Mobile Chevy. Row 4, Tom Chilton and Rob Collard, then Andy Neat and Nick Foster, Ford versus BMW. Ollie Jackson looking for points for the first time, maybe, from row 6, Michael Caine next door, then Rob Austin and John George. Tony Gillam and Liam Griffin on row 8. Then it's the youngster Chris Swanwick, and look who is back on row 9. Yep, it's Matt Neal, and one place behind him is his teammate Gordon Shedden, so that's the work they have to do. Chris James is next to him, Tony Hughes and Martin Byford in the Golf up on row 11. Row 12, Tom Baldwin and Frank Raffle, and then as we get towards the back, it's Lee Wood, Dave Nugent, Dan Welsh, Jeff Smith, and of course the man who missed out at the start of the first race, Andrew Jordan. So cars making their way around at the moment. Let's see if we can grab a very quick word with Gordon Shedden, one of those to suffer a puncture in the first race. Gordon, it's Ben in the com box. We all sympathise with what happened in race 1. Have you made any changes to the cars for this second race?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of absolute disaster in race 1, but you know, we've made a few changes. The problem is the car was in race 1, so you know, we've made changes, but just hopefully it's enough.
Well, you came from 22nd to 6th on the Indy circuit earlier this year, so you need another one of those today.
Yeah, I could really do with something like that, that's absolutely sure.
Okay, well, we wish you luck.
Yeah, nice thing for Gordon and for Matt, if you can call it a nice thing, is they're not right at the back because of problems for other cars. They're 18th and 19th, and of course they're looking to get solidly inside the top 10 to give themselves a chance of the reverse grid, and they'll still be carrying no weight. So it's not over till it's over, and I suspect we're going to see a great race from the two of them, and they will be well inside that top 10.
Yeah, as you say, no ballast on board the two Hondas as a result of not finishing in the top 6 in the first race, so that's got to help them, give them a bit of extra speed. Also, maybe a little pressure off the front tyres. The lighter the car, the better for the front tyre wear, I suppose. And of course they'll be have set the cars up just maybe a little bit safer. So let's just follow them round. They're coming down towards Clearways. They'll be lining up on the grid any moment now. Who else do we need to watch out for, Tim? I mean, Jason Plato looked so dominant earlier. He is carrying a bit more weight, but you wouldn't really bet against him, would you?
Not really. I mean, Matt Jackson obviously went very well in that first race, and we'll see how his car goes. There's no really... Rob Collard is a little bit further back. He's on the 4th row on the outside starting. He could get amongst them if he makes a good start. And so there's... But, you know, we'll just have to see how Plato's car carries that little bit extra weight.
We both noted how well behaved they were on the opening lap of the first race today. We haven't had anyone in the gravel at Druids or anything
Well,
yet.
that's the kiss of death now, isn't it? And I was surprised to see nobody off at Paddock or Druids on the first lap, or even Graham Hill, where the cars close up, bunch up. But yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for some good, clean racing, at least at the start. We don't lose anybody unnecessarily, because we want to see great scrapping out of this fantastic grid of cars on this fantastic circuit on a brilliant day.
Yeah, superb. I think all 29 are out this time. We're missing one at the start of the first race of the day, but I think we've got all 29 cars lining up this time.
Yeah, we can have a nice chat. It takes them so long to line up. Andrew Jordan back on the grid. That electrical problem solved fairly simply in the car. So he's back on the grid. Lee Wood back on the grid. That was an electrical issue as well. A coil pack went down, so full grid.
So every car is in position. Jason Plato starts up front. We have a green flag from the back. And the cars are all set for round 26 of the championship to get underway. The engine revs rise. Who's it going to be? And Plato gets away well, but Matt Jackson's very good, goes with him. And it's a good start from Tom Onslow. Cole behind in the Team A on Ford, but McDowell just getting in front of O'Neill. Watch the Team A on Ford. And Onslow, Cole, can he go around the outside at Paddock? Not quite. He slots into 4th place. Yeah,
one of the BMWs, I think, with a bumper hanging off at the back, but great start at the front. Certainly Plato and and Jackson got a really good start. I'll tell you who did get a brilliant start, and that was, the bumper's come off, that's good. It was Paul O'Neill, but he had to duck out to me. He was looking up the inside of McDowell, but was being forced into the pit lane Armco, so he had to really duck out of that.
Yeah, and everybody, I think, has got through Druids again this time, and through Graham Hill Bend. It's Jason Plato who leads. You see Andrew Jordan at the back of the field trying to make up some ground very early on. So Plato leads. You've got the Airwaves Ford of Matt Jackson in second. Alex McDowell in another Chevy is running in third, but under pressure from the Team A on Ford of Tom Onslow Cole. Then it's Paul O'Neill and James Nash in the black Vauxhall. There's the damage to the back of Collard's BMW, the bumper trailing away there, and he might lose a place to Chilton, I think. Yeah, up the inside. Matt Neal also making progress straight away there, Tim.
Yeah, but that bounce across the curb won't have done his tyres any good, will it? But they are completely on a charge, those two Hondas.
Yeah, we'll see where they are at the end of the first lap. At the intermediates, though, you can see Nash is currently running 6th, Collard in 9th place. We've got Ollie Jackson just going through in the middle of the pack with the black Vauxhall with the yellow stripes on it in his debut weekend, of course, in that Triple Eight Vauxhall as Collard comes through clearways with the bumper dangling. Let's see what the positions are like as they cross the line then. And Tom Onslow Cole definitely putting a bit of pressure on for that third place on McDowell. We're on board with Matt Neal. He's in 10th place, so he's made a lot of ground. And Shedden is in 12th place already.
Yeah, so 8 places gained by Matt Neal. Brilliant first lap from him. Very aggressive, very charging. We wouldn't expect anything less than the former two-time champion.
That's right, so he's on his way. But Plato is the man who leads this race in the Chevrolet with Matt Jackson in second place. Keep an eye on those Hondas. How much more progress can they make? You can see Matt Neal in the background there, coming along the Cooper Straight down towards Surtees. Well, you've got both Neal and Shedden. And Shedden, in fact, was about to make a move on Foster. Didn't quite make the move. Now, these two had contact at Rockingham. I know Shedden wasn't very happy, but it was just an incident on the second infield corner. Now it's Shedden's turn to try and get past Foster.
Yeah, he was very upset with Foster and Rockingham, accusing him of just recklessly driving into the side of him, breaking the rear suspension, but it's up to Gordon now to show us how to get past clean. He's certainly got a good run out of Hawthorns, and he's going to dive up the inside into Westfield. Good move.
Yeah, that was clean and very decisive from Gordon Shedden. So the Scot finds his way past the BMW. Matt Neal has got past Collard. So that puts Neal up into 9th place. He's in that top 10 already, and that's impressive. We're only on the second lap here.
Yeah, he actually needs to get up to 6 to guarantee himself a reverse grid front spot. Look, this is Jordan coming through. Remember, he did start at the back. Oh, and Welch, side by side.
Yeah, that was all a bit exciting, wasn't it? Jordan still trying to pick up some places, but work to do. Plato leads. Jackson, Onslow Cole now in third place ahead of McDowell. O'Neill, Nash and Chilton follow through. Andy Neat's going really well. It was Andy Neat we saw earlier, actually. So Andy Neat is running in 8th place. Neal in 9th as they cross the line. Collard is in 10th and Shedden 11th as they went over the line. Plato is beginning to open up the advantage up front. Despite carrying the maximum ballast, that Chevy is flying once again.
Well, it was the fastest car in qualifying by quite a margin, so he has a little bit of leeway, if you like, to add some extra weight and still be quick. But it's early days. The track is even hotter than it was in the first race, so let's see how tyre wear plays into this.
Yeah, Matt Jackson just controlling things in second place. You've got the two Fords just going through of Chilton and Andy Neat. They're running absolutely together, and Andy will be very pleased to be keeping his teammate under such pressure in the early stages of this race. Tom Boardman going through in 14th place. He's behind Michael Caine in another of the Airwaves cars. Michael got his feet caught somehow in the pedal box in the first race. Yeah, it was actually
his laces. He's got some of these sort of wide boy racing boots with long laces, and it got caught him out, got caught behind the pedal. And that's what pushed him off of Graham Hill. It can only happen to Michael Caine.
Well, he's still finished reasonably well, and now he's trying to work his way up the order, but he's in 13th behind Nick Foster in the BMW. But you're looking on board from Shedden's point of view, and he's going to have a go at getting past Collard as they come down into clearways. Oh, he's not quite there, but Collard gives him space, and there's room to work with, and Shedden should get the place here. Yeah, I'm not sure if Collard gave him space or there was just the tiniest of touches as Collard was turning in, but Shedden through, and that's put him into 10th place. So the Hondas are in the points, but as you say, they really want to get in the top 6 to guarantee they're still going to be in good shape for race 3. Remember, anything between 6 and 10 cars will be reversed on the grid later on, so it's important to keep making progress here. Looking back now from Shedden at Rob Collard. Collard with the rear-wheel drive BMW has his teammate Nick Foster behind. Michael Caine still pushing hard. Collard a little bit wide there. You're allowed to do that a few times, but then you'll get a warning flag.
Well, you're allowed to do it twice, and then you get a warning flag, and if you persist in doing it, you will get a drive-through penalty.
Now, Tom Onslow-Cole's running in a solid third place in the first of the Team Aon Fords, but behind him he's got McDowell, then Paul O'Neill, then James Nash, and then these two Team Aon teammates, Tom Chilton and Andy Neate, both running pretty confidently at the moment. In terms of the independents, by the way, Matt Jackson is top independent in the race. He's running in second place overall, of course, battling with James Nash in the independents, but Nash is a few places behind him because he's got Onslow-Cole and O'Neill between him and Jackson, so that has an effect on the independence points as well, as you watch Chilton and Andy Neate. Neate's doing a good job here.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Neate's been really spectacular on occasions, and hanging on to the coattails of his young touring car race winning teammate is quite something.
But look who's catching them. Matt Neal is at the back of that group, and he is definitely getting a little bit closer now. So Matt Neal in the Honda trying to get more on terms with those two Fords, and Shedden is behind Neal. We'll try and keep an eye on those lap times. How quick are the Hondas going at the moment?
Well, they're going a couple of tenths, 2 or 3 tenths quicker than the cars in front, so you know, it's no surprise he is catching them. Obviously no weight on that car, and a very good car anyway.
On board Matt Neal here, so he is closing the gap between himself and the Fords. It's Andy Neate who's his first target, and then Tom Chilton just up ahead. But the race settling down a little bit now. It gets harder and harder in a way to pick your way past, particularly as you move up. You're up against the quicker cars, of course. Through Surtees, Neate just pops over the curb. That's okay. Now this is where a bit of horsepower matters, because you're climbing uphill and then towards Hawthorns, up to about 140 miles an hour on the approach to Hawthorns, and it's only a little breathe really before going through the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just you settle the car on the brakes. You don't stand it on its nose. You just try and scrub off a bit of speed, but keep your general momentum up as much as you possibly can. And through certainly through Hawthorns and through their Westfield, the Honda looks really quick.
Yeah, and he closed on Andy Neate, who almost seemed to get bottled up by Chilton fractionally, and now Andy Neate has got Matt Neal right with him. You're riding with Matt Neal as he tries to keep the pressure on the Ford just ahead. We're on that 5 out of 15, still early stages, but Matt Neal desperate to try and make up the ground after the disaster of that puncture in race 1. How close is he? Well, he's pretty close, but is that enough to attack into Paddock Bend? A great run out of clearways here for Matt Neal. Now, can he get alongside on the run down towards Paddock Hill Bend? He's not quite close enough there. It'll be about the cornering speed through Paddock and then maybe attacking to Druids.
Yeah, well, if anything, the Ford was... He must get up the inside here, surely. He must get up the inside. The Ford was actually a little bit quicker down the straight, even than the Honda, with no ballast on it. So the Ford's not lacking horsepower, it's just lacking a little bit of handling, and that's where the Honda's catching him.
Yeah, and Andy Neate just a touch wide into Paddock, but it looked to me as though he doesn't really want to get too embroiled in the championship battle, and once Matt Neal got the car alongside, he wasn't going to fight it too hard. So Shedden is in the background still trying to catch up, remember, but Matt Neal's got himself into 8th place. He now chases after Tom Chilton. Might be a taller order perhaps to get past Tom Chilton, we'll have to wait to see. James Nash just up ahead of them as well. Got yellow flags in the final sector, so somebody's had a bit of a mishap, but I'm not quite sure what that's about. Plato continues to lead at the moment and has built up a 1.6 second advantage. He's taken fastest lap, which is another point, of course, in the championship.
Yeah, black and white warning flag for car 31. That's Chris Swanwick, so he's been exceeding presumably the circuit limits, and that's at Graham Hill Bend if you put 2 4 wheels off the track. Looking on board the RML Chevy team there, some anxious faces. Yeah,
but at the moment Plato's doing them proud because he's built up this little advantage over Matt Jackson, who's still in second place in the Airways car. He's chased by Tom Onslow-Cole, then Plato's teammate, who's got a little pressure here from Paul O'Neill. Of course, they're both driving Chevrolets. The Go Mobile car, the second of the 2 Chevys, is now beginning to get that little bit closer to McDowell. This could be quite interesting now as O'Neill tries to inch ever closer. Of course, virtually identical cars, so it's all about a bit of expertise and skill.
Yeah, Paul O'Neill very good on the brakes there, loses a little bit on the exit, but really committed on the way in, as we know Paul always is. But yeah, certainly gaining on McDowell on the braking areas.
We gather that Rob Collard has had to come in the pits to have the rear bumper section removed, so that's really ended his chances of a decent result here, and that's disappointing for the WSR man, but he's back out on circuit now. Plato still holding that 1.6 second advantage over Matt Jackson, Tom Onslow-Cole. There's McDowell versus Paul O'Neill. the youngster McDowell, getting the podium finish earlier on today. Sensibly sort of didn't fight too hard when Matt Jackson gave past. What was interesting, McDowell admitted he'd been a bit hard on the tyres in the early stages. I wonder if he's been a bit more cautious so that the tyres are going to survive the race distance a little better in this second race. And at the moment he's maintaining the gap to Paul O'Neill. His car still seems to hop a little bit more than McDowell's through Sheen Corner.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't look quite as planted, does it? But this whole group actually really all concertinaing up, very little in it between them on lap times, and I suspect there's, apart from Plato out front, there's quite a lot of positions could be fought over behind.
You know, Jason Plato has one of those few drivers, only two drivers, who've ever won all three races on the same day, and the last time he did it was on this Grand Prix circuit here at Brands Hatch. It would be a tall order, but right now he is totally dominating this second race.
Yeah. It is, and I would suspect it's going to be unlikely, because if the Hondas don't get into, you know, the top sort of podium positions, they won't be carrying much weight into the last race, but they'll still be starting near the front. So it's not impossible, but it'll be hard to do.
One of the Fords has just run wide at Druids. I think it was the car of Andy Neate. We'll check that as it comes back past us. But I think Andy Neate, yeah, he ran wide coming out of Druids, and that's lost him a couple of places. So that's a Shedden has now moved ahead of Neate as a result of that. So I think Gordon Shedden will be very grateful. And he just got a little bit out wide, I think.
Just outbraked himself into Druids. Very easy to do. It's a corner that sucks you in on the brakes. You want to be late into it because it's a slow corner, but easy to outbrake yourself. So Andy Neate's early run behind teammate Chilton. He's now slipped back, and that's often the difference in the drivers. It's who makes the least number of mistakes, because you can never recover that 100 yards lost. It's gone.
That's right. And Onslow Cole, meanwhile, is pushing Matt Jackson. So you've got the older version of the Ford Focus up against the latest global Ford Focus in the hands of Tom Onslow Cole. So this is an interesting little tussle. And Onslow Cole having his best performances really of the season, Tim, in this car, because he started driving in the VW Golf, joined back into Team Aon, and he's had a win in a Ford here last year when they had the LPG power. But this is definitely the best performance we've seen from him since he's come back.
Yeah, I mean, the team have been working with, you know, how best to place the weight in the car this year. Their car was actually built underweight, I think, and then when the weights went up for the turbo cars, they struggled to position it properly and lost a little bit of the dynamic movement in the car. And they're working very hard, and Onslow Cole's helping on the development of that to get some of that back in, working with placing the weight in the right place and roll centres that have the same sort of effect of pitch and movement in the car. And he's certainly a good development driver. He's getting the most out of the car now.
Yeah, and behind you've got Paul O'Neill beginning to harry Alex McDowell. You saw Alex McDowell just jink to take a tighter line into Surtees. That might help Paul O'Neill, although if anything he gets a bit wide on exit.
Yeah, Paul always extracting the maximum, and Paul's one of those drivers that's blisteringly quick, but he's always on the edge, and then that leads to those little mistakes that sometimes cost you track position.
Matt Neal is now closed onto the back of the queue, if you like, because he's behind Tom Chilton. There you are, the last car in that queue is Matt Neal, and behind him in the distance was Gordon Shedden. So the Hondas have made progress, but they've got a little bit stuck now. They're a bit stationary, lapping about the same lap times as those guys around them. The question will be the last few laps perhaps of this race. Will they have looked after their tyres sufficiently to be able to go on the attack?
Well, they've certainly been on full attack from the word go. They didn't really have any choice but to do that, so they would have been pushing the tyres very hard. And, well, I mean, Gordon Shedden said they'd made some set-up changes to the car, and I believe Eddie Hinckley, the chief engineer, said they probably have to back off the camber a little bit. So I'm expecting those cars to go further than they did in the first race.
Yeah, up towards Paddock Hill Bend they come. Matt Neal trying to close that gap just a little more. Plato continues to lead. He's got a gap of just 2 seconds now over Matt Jackson, who's only just about fending off Tom Onslow Cole. McDowell still running in 4th place, ahead of Paul O'Neill, who hasn't as yet managed to find a way through. James Nash is behind, and then behind Nash you've got Chilton, Matt Neal, Gordon Shedden. Andy Neate is still in 10th. You're on board with O'Neill here, and this is great pictures from on board O'Neill. Now he's going to have a little look. Oh, I'm blown up. McDowell is blown up, or something's. I think there's oil and all sorts down there. Suddenly, smoke and steam pouring out of the Chevy.
Yeah, and there is a big trail of oil on the track. I can see it from our commentary box. A massive explosion there. You don't see that very often in a touring car, but that's going to be a rod out the side of the engine, and it's dumped all its oil. I'm sure that'll be a safety car if because there's a lot of oil down there, but Well, that's a real turn. That's not going to please Plato, his teammate. He's not going in favour there, because if there is a safety car, it'll close everybody up behind. And I'm sure all the teams will be on the radios. That's the beauty of having radios. You can say oil on the circuit. It's a real safety aid to help the guys know what to do.
Really unusual, though, to see one of those Chevy engines go like that. So very disappointing for Alex McDowell. Impressive plume of smoke and steam. I can smell the oil from our commentary box. The wind is actually blowing this way.
Well, it's swathed the whole circuit in smog. You can see it there on your picture. The actual circuit is swathed in blue smoke.
I haven't seen the safety car called yet, though. There's a drive-through for Dave Newsham, which has just been put up on our screen, but no safety car as yet. So that's very interesting. Could make life difficult as the leaders are coming back down to that area now.
Yeah, you'll see it on the road as the cars go across the bottom straight. Big shiny patch that the cars have to cross. They don't actually need to run on it, but it's certainly stopped a braking an overtaking area into Surtees.
Yeah, they're having to take a slightly different line, but hopefully, as you say, the actual turning point is not too bad, and then through Surtees they go. And let's just remind you what this has meant. It means that O'Neill has gained, because O'Neill is now up to 4th and now chasing Onslow Cole. Behind, Nash, Chilton and Matt Neal. Then there's Shedden, not really able to close that group ahead of them. And there's no doubt the Hondas are not looking as fast here at Brands as we have seen them in the past, Tim. I mean, they've been quick at just about every track, but they are definitely feeling the pinch at this Brands Hatch.
Yeah, I mean, what's surprising is that having sort of shown that initial pace at the start of this race, they're not really pushing Chilton now any further, and Shedden's not catching either.
No, that's right. So they're having their work cut out here. Matt Neal runs 7th. Gordon Shedden runs in 8th place. The reverse grid, though, could still help them in race 3 later on, as Jason Plato continues to lead. There's Nash. He's running 5th in the black and silver Vauxhall, chased by Tom Chilton, winner on the Grand Prix circuit last year. Let's just take a look at the blow up again. Look at that.
Yeah, and also, and you saw that on the approach, McDowell was on the left-hand side of the track. He was trying to get out of the way and ended up crossing the track completely. So, big stream of oil all across the track.
Yeah, that must have been a bit of a moment, I should think, for Matt Neal as he's sort of going through the smoke. But everything is cleared now. The car is off to the infield. No need for safety car actually in the end. So the race has continued, and Plato on his way. Still 1.9 seconds ahead. Jackson versus Onslow Cole is the battle for 2nd place. Further down the order you can see Nick Foster's currently in 10th place, Boardman 11th, Michael Caine 12th, Frank Rathel only 13th on this occasion, and Rob Austin 14th. So the NGTC cars that starred so well at Rockingham last time out, well, they haven't really shown that kind of... Oh, and there's an NGTC car. That's Dan Welch. Contact, I think, with Dave Newsham.
Yeah, and I think I'm right in saying Dave Newsham had a drive-through penalty a little bit earlier, but certainly a little bit of contact there. Maybe he hasn't taken it because he wouldn't be in that position, I wouldn't have thought otherwise.
No, I think we're yet to see him come in. There's the battle for 2nd. It's still Matt Jackson. Well, we've just heard that the drive-through has been rescinded, so he's not going to have to come into the pits anymore.
Oh, he's got a good team manager then, hasn't he?
Talked him out of it. That's pretty good. There's, as I say, Onslow Cole chasing, Paul O'Neill, then James Nash and Tom Chilton. Matt Neal still stuck there in 7th place, unable to make much more progress. We have seen 11 laps, 12 laps completed now. We're on to lap 13 out of 15. Let's just see what's been going on here. Now, this is Chris James just behind Chris Swanwick. Yeah. And he's taken the front bumper off the Lassetti on the back of the Audi, presumably.
Yeah, and I'm sure the team can repair that. They're very good at reusing equipment, so I'm sure they'll reuse that bumper for race 3.
Oh, Matt Jackson got big sideways through Graham Hill Bend, and also Cole trying to take advantage. He got a little lock up on the left road, just watching out of the commentary box window, and he definitely got a bit sideways, but he sort of gathered it together. But that will give Onslow Cole some hope. Yeah, definitely, and he would love to be the first Focus home, and also the newer Shape Focus. And it's also allowing Paul O'Neill to sort of drag up behind them as well. Behind that is still James Nash, but Matt Jackson is the grip going away on the Airwaves car. Is Onslow Cole's car perhaps working a bit better? Look how defensive Jackson is beginning to get. He's working hard now to try and hold on to this 2nd place. But remember, in terms of the championship, Jackson desperately needs this finish. He's been so unlucky in the last couple of events. But although Plato will head in the championship as things stand at the moment, Jackson is going to be right that much closer to the Hondas if he can hold on to second place here.
Well, we know how good Matt Jackson is at soaking up pressure. He's done it time and time again, so I'm not expecting any big mistakes. He'll soak up the pressure, and Alonso Cole is also a very fair driver. He won't do anything too aggressive or too rash, I don't think.
And Paul O'Neill's getting closer to the back of them as well, so Alonso Cole's going to have to keep an eye on his mirrors, because as they come across the line, the Go Mobile Chevy is that little bit close. Another little lock-up from Jackson, but again, it's not an issue, I think. Certainly using all the road out of paddock, but they all like to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, O'Neill was half a second quicker than those two on that last lap. So with the tyre wear in this heat for the front-wheel drive cars, the normally aspirated cars, like the Chevys, are really coming to their own at the end of the race. And that's probably what's helping Jason Plato with the additional weight. Although he's got additional weight on, the turbo cars are having more tyre wear.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Plato up front is lapping half a second quicker than the guys behind him, except O'Neill, who is the only other driver really right on their pace. Although Nash behind was pretty quick on that last lap. You're on board with O'Neill as he chases down third place here, and he got close a moment ago, but he's not quite close enough to attack. Up through Hawthorns they go, carrying about 125, 130 miles an hour through that corner, in fact, before braking and going a little slower into the right-hander at Westfield. Matt Neal's dropped away a bit in the background, I noticed, from Tom Chilton, so he's just not been able to sustain the pace this time.
Well, it's bizarre because, I mean, Matt Neal's car has no ballast on it, Chilton's car has no ballast on it, so it's a straight fight, and you'd have put your money on the Honda being quicker.
Yeah, that's right. Just seen Jeff Smith running a bit wide out of Graham Hill Bend, but he got it back on the island once again. Plato still leads, and he's going to come round this time to complete lap 14 and go on to their last lap. Paul O'Neill, can he save something up for this last lap? Can he do something to get past Onslow Cole and get onto the podium or not? Let's just wait and see. Up to the outside they go into Paddock Hill Bend, plunging downhill, hitting that dip in the bottom where your tummy hits the floor, and then climbing back up towards Druids. Paul O'Neill just not close enough really to have a lunge. And look at this behind Chilton on Nash, and Chilton's got up the inside of Nash, and just as in race one, Nash seems to lose a bit of performance at the end of the race with the Vauxhall.
Yeah, but look at that, Matt Neal nowhere in sight to take advantage of that. He may get another opportunity, but as Nash and Chilton still fighting.
Yeah, this is still good stuff. Onslow Cole and Paul O'Neill. And I tell you, in the background I can see Shedden is actually under a bit of pressure from Andy Neate further back, and that was for 8th place. So Andy Neate's still going well after that little error earlier. So up through the woods they come. Plato with his advantage over Matt Jackson, Onslow Cole and O'Neill. Then behind them, of course, Nash, who has seen Tom Chilton move up to 5th place on this last lap. Certainly a good race for Fords. They might not going to be win this one, but they're looking at finishing 2nd, 3rd and 5th. And there you can see, I said that Andy Neate was quite close to Shedden. You can see it there. Yeah,
in fact, all those cars catching Shedden. And I mean, there's Michael Caine and Rathel having a great.
Yeah.
Rathel's got to be careful. That's where he broke his suspension on the last race. But it is the final lap, so you've got to go for it. It's for 12th place.
But here comes Jason Plato. He's coming through clearways, and it is going to be, like earlier this season, a double victory here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix track. That's career win number 68. The big 70 is getting closer and closer, but Jason Plato, another very accomplished victory. Jackson finishes 2nd, Onslow Cole held 3rd from O'Neill, Chilton 5th, Nash 6th, Neal 7th and Shedden 8th. And an awful lot will now depend on the draw for the reverse grid. Will it be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars in that draw?
Yeah, well, if it's only 6, Nash will be on the front row. If it's 8, 7 or 8, then Neal or Shedden or both will be on the front row, and wouldn't they like that for the last race with no weight on board?
8th win of the season there for Jason Plato. I mean, that is a huge tally of victories now. It matches, I think, his best seasons. He's won 8 in the past. He won it when he won the championship back in 2001. He won 8 races in 2008. So it's a remarkable tally that to have, and we've still got a few races to go.
Well, it is, and you think back sort of earlier in the year, he was the underdog complaining about the regulations, and now it's all coming good at the end of the season for him. And whether he's played the best political game this year, or had the best car, or been the best driver, I'll leave that for you to decide. But clearly it's sort of unravelled at the moment for Honda, who looked like they could win every race at the start of the year. But in that particular race, the Hondas they made their initial gains, but then they struggled to go any further. In fact, were being caught at the end of the race by other cars. So. And you can't account for the weight difference there. It can only be the reduction in boost pressure they've suffered and the additional 20 kilos they were asked to carry. So Honda's struggling.
The other thing we've got to make the most of, make the point about, of course, is the fact that Jason is now the championship leader with not many points scored by Neil and Shedden. They certainly, he is the championship leader. So let's have a very quick word with Jason. He's heading down in towards the pits. Jason, don't know if you can hear me, but that was another very accomplished drive and puts you on top of the points, we reckon, now.
Hi, Ben. Thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, you know, my Silverline Chevrolet Cruise has been absolutely fantastic this weekend. I've just got the car exactly where I wanted to. My balance is perfect. Yeah, I'm a happy bunny.
Well done. We'll no doubt hear more from Jason in a few moments' time. He's just coming into the end of the pit lane. And the results of the second race here at Brands, it is 2 out of 2 for Jason Plato. He is now back up there in the championship, certainly. Matt Jackson finishing in second. Tom Onslow-Cole an excellent third, his best result since he's come back into Team Aon, and he'll be chuffed about that. Paul O'Neill a solid fourth, Tom Chilton fifth, James Nash still scoring those vital points in sixth, ahead of the two Hondas of Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden. Andy Neaton, Nick Foster, they'll be both pleased to have got into the top 10. Tom Bourman finished 11th. Great dice between Michael Caine and Frank Raffle for 12th there. Won by Michael Caine. Rob Austin behind them, then Martin Byford. Andrew Jordan coming from the back, finished 16th ahead of Dave Newsham, Molly Jackson, Liam Griffin and John George. And then down towards the back, Lee Wood, Rob Collard had to come into the pits, Tony Gillam, Jeff Smith, Chris James, Tony Hughes, Chris Swanwick and Dan Welsh and Alex McDowell, who had that spectacular blow-up. So let's take a look at the points then, and Jason Plato now leads the championship. He's on 215 points. He's second ahead of Matt Neal, who's just one ahead of his teammate Gordon Shedden. And of course, don't discount Matt Jackson, because Jackson's scoring solidly again there with second position. And it could still be a four-way battle going into the finale at Silverstone. Right, let's get down to the pits and more reaction with Simon.